Alrighty, what's up, people? Just Being Me TV is back. It's been a little bit. As we all know, life gets hectic and crazy, and I don't have to say it for anybody else. We already know the state of the world right now is going through a lot. I've gone through a lot, and probably you've gone through a lot if you're watching this video. Today's a very unique and special day for me because if you guys are following me on any of my social media, I've been very outspoken about some of the social injustice that's been going on towards Black males in today's society. Now, this, as we all know, this is something that's nothing new, but I think the prevalence of social media and technology has allowed it to be a lot more in people's faces without the cover up of not knowing the truth. Okay, as recent events have happened has caused things within my soul as a Black male to step up and speak my truth. My truth is one perspective, okay, but I've been very blessed and lucky to have good friends and a man that I look at it as a mentor to as well. Talking about just as how we relate to each other as men, but from a business side, and now even on a more personal side of some of the stories, as I spoke up about my raw emotions, about the things that are going on. And from that, my man Trevor here, we had some dialogue about the racial interactions that we've had and how it's impacted our lives, from a young age into present day. So because of that dialogue, we decided to do this and bring it to the forefront and let people listen into this dialogue. So I would love, again, people who watch my channel, I've interviewed with him before and his beautiful wife on their company, but now this is going to get a little bit more personal. So, Trevor, welcome. Thank you for being a part of this amazing topic.
Thank you, Troy. I'm actually very happy to be here, and many people probably don't know that I've been following you work within your passions, the things that you that are important to you, as far as being an artist and a very talented choreographer. And I'm watching you get into more of a dialogue with people, bringing up things that actually really matter. And I just wanted to make mention that I really appreciate that. As you know, Eileen and I love you. We think you're a fantastic person, and in every bit of growth that we see in you and ourselves, we're very happy for that. So this is going to be kind of a touchy subject for some people. There's going to be people who will watch this, and I'm guessing that they're going to have some pretty strong feelings and opinions about the things that we talk about. But the whole idea is to be really open, and so that maybe people will better understand the things that sometimes isolate us as people, the factors that are involved in that. A lot of it's very generational. And quite frankly, anything that is against any group of people is against everything. We firmly believe that we are all one planet, but we also believe that people are interacting in ways that's just not good for any of us, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that. I mean, it's reactions are probably the biggest issue that we have right
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how do we have? All right, so I'm gonna post one of the tough question from the beginning. How do we have dialogue without harsh reactions with something that's so touchy? And let's just put it out there. We're talking about the interaction in blacks and whites, male, females, those type of dialogues. How do we have, like you said, with generations and generations of passed on, programming of society of beliefs, stereotypes, with so much that being ingrained in so many people, how do we have dialogue without reaction?
That's a really good question. And I see, actually, just interesting enough, more um, more animosity in between two political parties than I do in between races at the moment.
Good point. Very good point.
And from what Eileen and I understand, it's really how we feel is about how we think about something, and that includes judgment. Uh, so if you're listening to what somebody else is saying and you feel angry, you're judging what they're saying without realizing what's back behind that and why they're saying that, and that it's okay for them to feel the way that they do. And they may have had experiences or experiences passed on to them that makes them think a certain way, and when they think that way, they feel that way. And that really doesn't matter what color they are.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we're true. Okay, so but we both know there's a deeper root than that because the generation goes down. But then there's a responsibility, I think, within a person to either accept the beliefs or not accept the beliefs. Now I understand that it's kind of very hard to do because a lot of it happens from early childhood and early childhood programming because the environment that you grow up in, or the situation that you grow up in, that has a very large impact on you. If you're not exposed to other scenarios and situations, um, I'm gonna get right to it. The area I grew up in was predominantly Hispanic, black, and white, but predominantly Hispanic. You know what I'm saying? So I had a huge influence in that in my life. I came from a very large African American family. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. You know what I'm saying? So diversity. I've been around diversity. I learned how to speak Spanish words because I had friends who spoke Spanish. I had a lot of teachers who spoke Spanish. You know what I mean? Because I was a part of the hip hop culture. That is has a huge impact on my life because that's the culture that I live. It's about hiding in peace, helping other people. We cross boundaries in that. But even within crossing boundaries in the hip hop culture, I've had to face racism myself, even being a hip hop head, going into, and it's a prime example. This is why I do what I do, especially right now. The predominant studios that I go into, as you've seen, you don't see people that look like me. And I do that for a reason. Because they don't understand. A lot of times when I go into these studios and I start talking about hip hop culture and I start talking about the history, they don't realize they're getting African American and Latin American history right in front of their face that they're not getting in school.
I think there's a really good point to that, and there's a lot of young men that whites that would try to. I mean, they like it. They like that culture, but they really don't fit in there. They don't know how to fit in there. They try really hard,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't understand the deep-rooted feelings that's back behind uh, the strengths and the pains that are mixed in to that culture. They don't understand it well enough to actually be it.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few.
Yeah.
Uh, in growing up, I I lived in California when I was pretty young, so it was fairly diverse. Um, as a really little child, you don't really see the diversity; you just see people.
Yeah.
As you get a little bit older, the children tend to group more,
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges really it's just more challenges that young kids do in between the groups um, begin to happen, but it gets worse as time goes on. One of the things that I really remember as a child was things that my father said.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where bigotry comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where one generation can pass bigotry on from one generation to another. As I probably wasn't even a teenager yet. We lived in a small ranch, and there was a house that was probably less than a quarter of a mile down the street, and there there were some people uh, making an offer to buy the house. And when my father found out who the people were, he went down to the courthouse to try to block it, to the city council to try to block it, because they were black. Now that's where black people have a legitimate gripe, was people just like that. That is discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to block somebody from buying a house because of their color, definitely discrimination. As a child, I didn't understand it. And I questioned everything. So I'm like, Dad, why? What's wrong with it? You know, well, they're going to have junk cars in the yard. Well, that's what I hear about rednecks now. You know, it wasn't legit. All, all my life, I've watched that and saw that good people are good people, and I don't care what color they are. If they're good people, their yard's nice, and they take care of stuff, and they have pride and take care of the stuff that they have. I learned it was just an illegitimate feeling. It was anti-human as far as I'm concerned, but it did happen. It's not happening like it used to. I don't see it so much anymore. Maybe my friends are different. You know, maybe it's because those people are mostly gone now. Um, but it doesn't seem the same. And I'd hate to see us revert back to those feelings again. I think that would be terrible. It would be just like the North and the South. You know, we're friends and are torn apart from each other. And I don't really see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that story because it's a good segue to a story from opposite perspective from childhood and the vibration of that feeling. Okay, um, this this story sticks. It's so vivid in my mind. I was at a playground. There's an apartment complex in the area that I grew up in, and where I grew up in is called Commerce City, Colorado. Okay, this apartment complex is called Holly Park Apartment. And the majority of people who ever lived in Commerce City lived in Holly Park Apartments or had family members in this apartment complex. Okay? So I was down there hanging out with some friend of mine named Nico. Me and Nico were playing on the playground with the little blonde girl. Okay? We're playing on the playground. I remember just playing in the sand. We're having a good time and everything. And I look up and I just see this guy running at me and yelling, "Get away from those niggers. Get away from those niggers right now." And I just stopped. I was like, I looked at Nico and I looked at her and she looked at me and she was so confused. And we were all confused. Like,
Yeah.
he's talking to us? And he was yelling at the top of his lungs because he came out of the apartment complex because the playground was right in the middle of the apartment complex. So the whole apartment complex was pretty insane. And the little girl ran in fear. Like, me and my friend Nico just looked at each other like, what happened? And I remember like going home after that, and I didn't talk to my parents about it because I didn't get it. But I
Mm-hmm.
was probably like, 7, 8 at the time. I didn't get it, but there was a fundamental feeling within me that it was directed towards me, and it was anger, and that's what I felt as a little kid. Just all this anger. Where's that anger coming from? So it was good you shared that story because it gave a great segue to the vibration of that energy and how it vibrates through your body. You know what I mean?
I think that the confusion that you went through is very legit, and getting angry later when you think about it, it's very legit. After all, you were just having a good time
Yeah. And
with a friend.
yeah, and which later on in life has what set up more interaction, when it comes to, somebody, if I'm dating someone outside of my race and they're afraid, I've had to do this several times. I have to have the conversation with her because she's afraid to tell her dad or her mom, but I'm not afraid to meet parents and sit down and have these conversations. But I would go into it angry when I was younger because I remember that scenario that I dealt with. I'm like, you don't even know me. You're judging me by an appearance. You have no idea who I am as a person. And so I had to go into those scenarios and situations very young. Teenage high school. I had to go into a friend's house and everything. And even now, later on in life, let's fast forward into my 40s. I went over to a friend's house who was doing some construction. He asked me to help him out and do some stuff out. Like, okay. I walked in. I'm a hip hop culture head. I will always represent my culture. Okay. I had some sweats on. Okay. I had one leg up and one leg down. That was it. Walked in. The guy said, "Is your friend gonna steal something? Because he has one leg up, one leg down." I looked at him and just stared at him like, "Really? Really?" And he just kind of like, huh, and he kind of laughed it off, and I just stared at him. And at that moment in time, there's so many other things you want to say. Again, reaction, because of the plain, I just want to say ignorance of the perception of what you're trying to put out there. Really? And do I return something and say something is equally ignorant to him? Because I wanted to at that moment in time. But all I did was just stare at him like, wow, I'm not even going to respond to that.
It's like, what? What?
I'm not even going to respond to that.
Don't you just love it when people react fairly quickly, and then they try to cover up by saying, I was just joking?
Yeah.
The reaction was still there, and quite frankly, my guess is that after he reacted, his mind had time to think about how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
And he might not even know why he reacted that way in the first place. But he did catch it, and he did realize that it just wasn't quite right. But he tried to bail on it by making it a joke.
Yeah.
But you can at least give him credit that he caught it. And the next couple times he'll do better.
Sometimes, honestly, Trevor, sometimes I think, and I'm not the only person who probably thinks this, but I can only speak for myself. Sometimes I feel I'm like, I don't want to say the guinea pig or the person who breaks that ice with people. That's like, okay, obviously you have this certain perception of what a black male is, because I, wear my hair cocked to the side. I still wear baggy clothes, and I still, listen to hip hop music, and I'm in my 40s. You have this perception that I'm a certain way. Okay, so let's break that down. And so I just started living my life. You know what I'm saying? Because and this is something, and like I said, we're getting the topic of skin color, race, and racial interaction. Okay, and I understand this hit me after all this went down and some of the perceptions, because in my conversations with people, especially when I really started speaking out recently, what I noticed is as I started speaking out recently, the people I speak out with, when they start getting uncomfortable because of the subject matter, I can feel in their skin they get uncomfortable. But I notice they'll grab my words and they'll start to turn it. Like you said, they'll twist it like, oh yes, but we all this. Or no, this is what I really meant. And I was like, okay, you're getting uncomfortable. All right. So this goes, now there's talk between, and I'm just gonna get dig into it. All lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. Okay, and the reason why I decided to pull it in to say black men matter. Okay? The reason why I decided to say black men matter in my eyes is because I feel in these situations and scenarios, black men do not have someone supporting them because the image that has been portrayed in society that we are thugs, we don't take care of our people, we leave babies everywhere, all these things. We can go on and on. Okay,
Mhm.
who is defending that? There's no one defending the right of the black man. So I'm like, you know, men, and even from the black culture, we hear about black on black crime. Yes, there's black on black crime. There's white on white crime. There's Hispanic on Hispanic crime. But the focus is always on black crime. So we feel as black males that we get pinpoint into this corner all the
Do you
time.
think?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think that if you keep telling a group of people that you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, what they are?
It's just like programming a computer. You keep saying and spitting out the same thing over and over again, people start to believe those things.
So it's kind of like if a woman keeps accusing her husband constantly, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me. I know, I saw you look at that girl, but eventually he says, fine, I'll cheat then.
Yeah,
And
because
I
you
think that,
you keep painting this picture and you're just like, okay, dude, I'm not this. I am not this. I am not this. Fine, all right, I'm gonna be this so just to satisfy you. And then the funny thing is, you go do that, and then they go, "Oh my God, I never thought you would do that. That's not you."
yeah,
It's like you have to radically do something so crazy to wake people up. So to go back to the point of why I say black men matter, we have no one to stand for. So I'm going to stand in these perceptions and like these perceptions are wrong because I've never been married. I don't have kids. So you can't put those labels on me. I've owned a business. I've given away a business. I've helped other people run businesses. Those labels don't fit me. Those labels don't fit other men who look like me. So you can't label those things. And so when I feel other body, when I a lot of times what I've noticed, and I think this lot has to do with just my life experiences, and I think what a lot of frustration with black males feel is like, you know, we speak, they say speak our truth. We speak our truth and people go, no, that's not true. Wait a minute, you just said speak your truth. But then I speak my truth and then you feel a certain way about it because it hurts you right here. But then you feel comfortable for 5 seconds. Well, I've been feeling uncomfortable for 40 years.
right.
So, I mean, you're supposed to expect me to feel sorry for you? You know, I know, you know what I'm saying? Like, really, do you want me to feel sorry for you? And that's when, like, when that stuff happened, what really triggers because, and I didn't tell my family all the details because I still had to deal with it. I've been pulled out of a car by 3 cops at night with no care, like no social media, and you're hearing click click. What the? And you got 2 cops on one side on your driver's side, and you got another one on your passenger side, and you're just seeing flashlights, and you're hearing click click. You get out the car, and you stand behind the car, and there's 3 cops with 3 guns, and you behind a block. Nothing behind you, nothing around you. It was no cars coming. It was one of those eerie feelings, and there was this moment in time. I'm like, this is how it's gonna go over.
That's
And
kind of scary.
I just had to stand there.
Yeah. Well, you did the best thing. Just stand there. So, did it iron out quickly?
The funny thing, yeah, because I just stood there. And next thing you know, I'm in handcuffs. They're taking me away. And I'm like, why are you taking me away? I don't even. Then it was like, well, your tail light's out. Then it might be that. I'm like, can I get an explanation? Nothing. No explanation. No nothing. Gone. Spent the night. I don't know why.
Never charged with anything.
Nothing.
And those are the things. How long ago was that?
This was 2012. This was only 4 years ago.
That's not long ago at all. Yeah, that's amazing because, and I know they weakened the laws by saying probable cause, but you don't haul somebody off, lock them up, and then let them go with no reason, no, yeah, quite frankly, I would feel that I was being singled out if that happened.
Oh, it totally felt like it because there was no. It came out of nowhere. Like I was literally a block. This what made it feel very weird. I was a block away from my house. I'm like, are you watching where I'm going?
Did you see the address on my driver's license?
You know what I mean? I'm like, I literally. They were like, where are you going? Obviously, I'm like, that's my house. I live right there, so obviously I'm going home.
And see, that's something that I think that people experience that, and it doesn't. You don't see it in the newspaper. The only stuff you see in the newspaper, and I hit it once too, so I understand it, is negative stuff against the person, the individual, seems to be an issue. I had a as a young, I was like 21 years old. I was arrested for stealing my own car, grand theft auto. Where that came from was people that I was associated with. They assumed that I was up to no good. They arrested me because I had repoed the car from somebody that quit paying me. Unfortunately for them, the car was still in my name, but that hit the newspaper. People see negative stuff in the newspaper, they believe it automatically.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that doesn't hit the newspaper, that happens to people like what happened to yourself, that never hits the newspaper, it's really hard to get people to even realize that those things happen.
Yeah. And you try to tell people, and they can't fathom it.
You know what? They can't. Most of them can't. It's a little easier for me because I decided to join the ranks of bikers when I was pretty young. So they were always watching us.
Yeah.
So we pretty much understood that. But even in those days, there was racial issues. Many of the motorcycle clubs of that time, you couldn't be black or Mexican and be in those clubs. So even though they were renegades or rebellious against the system, they still had racial issues back then,
Mm-hmm.
even when they were issues themselves.
Yeah. Like what? Okay, with that, what kind of? Can you give us like some examples of some of the stuff you've been through, like, and that because that's an interesting perspective. Being renegades, but also still having judgment towards another. That makes sense.
um, I think that mostly it was to be our own individual. We had our own culture.
Mm-hmm.
We had our own rules. Um, there was it was counterculture. So the establishment was not something that we were interested in. Do these things sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of the same principles, based in the hip hop culture. Breaking the rules, creating our own rules, creating our own way of communicating, creating our own music, our own language. So that we can interact in a way that others can't understand or try to suppress us from making that happen. That's all of hip hop culture. It's all about suppression. You can't have this, you can't do that. Well, fine, we'll just create our own.
Exactly. It's really, you know what, I think it's a great identification, and one of the things that I like about it the most is it promotes talent.
Mm-hmm.
It promotes acting. It promotes choreography. It promotes. It gives people something to do with their passions, and so I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. It's
Just
not.
like I'm just like the guys that buy a motorcycle and customize it and join up with other guys and do different rallies and stuff like that. It gives them something to do. It's a passion. Um, a lot of people's talent show up in that. And so, yes,
Okay. With that being said, no matter if it's what we experience, me with the hip hop culture, you and the motorcycle culture, are both of us in our own ways experiencing it in the entertainment business. Um, where we talk about those places, because we've experienced these things. You don't see color, creed, or race. Because you're with other people who are looking at the same thing just from a different perspective. You know, so you don't see that. So, like you said, so you're with the guys that you ride bikes with. Well, each guy's bike's going to be different, and the way he expresses his bike is going to be artistically different. You guys might have the same model of bike, but he might have bags on his bike. You might not have bags on your bike. So artistically, you guys are coming from the same root, but you're expressing yourself completely different. You know, um,
exactly.
and so with that, you might come across another group of guys. You might see another guy from another group who's riding who have the same model as you, but express it completely different, right? So then who there's no right or wrong in those expressions. Everybody's taking a
Exactly.
different look on those expressions. And I think that's what has, they talk about an idle mind, is a dangerous thing. When you're in a creative thing or you're working with a group in a project or something like that, you don't have time to think about that. You're thinking about how can a goal be achieved. I think a great aspect of that is sports. When you're on a team, that's why I love football, because you know it's 11 men. No matter where your background is, this is your brother, this is your soldier. This is who you go to war with, and you're sacrificing yourself to make this happen. So I think where idle minds and all the generations is people get idle. They're not putting energy and passions into themselves. So they're allowed to be downloaded with these things, these perceptions and all this stuff because their minds are not trying to grow and put themselves out there. So they take in these ideologies of this is how this is supposed to be and this is how this person's supposed to act, and they live off those things. And I think until they come across a cultural experience, no matter if it's riding bikes or dancing or climbing rocks, something that takes them out of that experience, those perceptions and the programming from generations stay there, and they just fester and grow. And you find these type of scenarios and situations that we're having, but having these dialogues, it makes it easier, I think, because you and I have had so many different experiences in different cultures, not just by skin color, by interaction, by craftsmanship or learning something or building something or a group of people doing something. That breaks down those cultural walls. The guys that I toured with and did a lot of great work with, the crew I call Elements of Motion. I mean, we had Spanish, Irish, Filipino, Haitian, Russian. guys from all over, and we learn from each other. Not only about dance from each other, but we learn culturally from each other. My director, his parents are from the Philippines. His dad's from the Philippines, so we would have Filipino food all the time. One of our brothers, he's from Haitian, so he'd bring in his Haitian cuisine. So we'd be learning about different cultures, but I wouldn't be learning about these different cultures if I didn't put myself in these arenas and met these people. So I think it's about getting away from the fear and expanding yourself and crossing barriers. And just because this person looks different from you doesn't mean you can't learn from it, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And in most of the activities that you're talking about, or the expressions that you're talking about, really, it's probably more natural for us as humans to like or dislike something, kind of like something, but kind of dislike something. Um, but judging it beyond that, it's probably not natural for us. I mean, if you think about it, we get taught very many times that, well, you got to think this way, you got to stand your ground. And those are usually pretty extreme ends of the spectrum. When anybody said, you got to think this way, you got to stand your ground. Well, it's going to be an extreme. If we can stay in not judging people, but deciding what we like, what we don't like, what kind of music we like, what kind of music that we don't like that much, but realizing that it's all music, it's just that we haven't learned to accept or like along with the others. Eileen and I we're pretty diverse in music, so we like all music. We prefer some over others, but we like all. And when there's a lot of people we know that don't like metal bands, and they don't like hip hop. But if they actually went like we do and listen and really listen, they would learn to appreciate talent there. It's just that they won't do it. On the other end of the spectrum, if you have something to offer that's different than a different culture, maybe um, than some of the people in your area, it would be best to invite those people constantly to come experience the culture, the music, the talent that you have to offer with with open arms, wide open doors. People feel comfortable to come experience what you have to offer. That goes for whatever color culture you are. Open doors into understanding and learning to appreciate um, a certain type of music or action or dancing or sport. It always should be very open so that people can gain better understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Um, Let me pose this question, Trevor. And so we definitely just laid out, kind of a framework to how to help people to grow in those areas. So how do we get to those people who are still stuck in that mentality of the programming of the fears of another person's skin?
I like that question. And it's really to watch how you view things. In other words, watch your own thinking. Don't expect something to be a certain way. Be open to that other people are human and they want to be liked and they would like to have a good interaction with you if they could. That's in our nature to want to be appreciated and be able to appreciate other people. Color really doesn't matter. I understand fears get in there. The best example I can give you was yesterday morning. I went out. We live in a like a condo apartment type complex. I went out into the parking lot to do a couple things to my pickup that I just to make it look a little bit better. Four people drove past me took the time to wave and smile. Two people walked past me, took the time to say good morning, how are you? Not one of them were white. And I think that that happens because I really expect people to be good. That's my first choice, to be good people. And it happens that way. I have, in my whole life, I've only had one negative interaction with somebody that had different colored skin than me. And that it was only because he was a young male. It had nothing to do with the color of his skin. So I think that the fears that a lot of people with white skin have are unfounded, in that it's their own wall that they put up that brings them negative experiences.
Hmm. I'm glad you said that. I am. I'm really glad because I think a lot of times people want to hear that because the question asked, why, what is it? There are times I want to know. Um, I guess here's a reverse perspective on it. When they talk about white privilege, I don't understand that. I don't get it. The only time maybe I could relate to that was back in probably, I think this was like 2009, 2010. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I was in Atlanta, Georgia with my dad, visiting an uncle, and I happened to be visiting another friend of mine that lived out. She lived down there too. Well, we were staying downtown, and we were staying downtown right by the Olympic Park, where they had the Olympics and stuff down there, where they celebrated. And there was ironically, we were down there during the National Black Arts Festival. So we were staying right there at the hotel. You can look outside and see the festival going on. So one night they're having a concert, and we're sitting outside a free concert. Me and my dad were, listening to the music, and I stop and I just look around the park. And I look around, and there's nothing but black families all around me. And I turned my whole head 360, and I was like, wow. And I had to like take a moment in, and I was like, is this really real? So I left the concert area for a second. And I walked to the corner, and I walked to the corner of a busy intersection in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just watched traffic for 15 minutes. And I watched the cars go by, and every car that went by was a black face. And then I looked up and I looked through the city, and like the police officers were black, all the people in the stores were black, everything. And then I did this. And I was like, oh, is this what white people feel like every day? Wow, this is nice. Like you see everything that looks like you doing everything that society says you can't do. And there was this sense of peace that I've never, ever, ever felt before because everything around me looked just like me. And there was not a negative perception of anything bad was happening. Society was beautiful. Everybody was interacting, families, the arts were going on, lives were being lived, and it was just beautiful. And for 15 minutes of my life, I felt complete.
It's a belonging.
Yes. Yes. And I'm like, so is that what white privilege feels? I don't know. That's my only like perception of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, from what I understand, yes, it does make sense, and that happens in between groups too. Um, the most I know about white privilege, it's rich white people.
True. Very true. Very
The
true.
When it comes to poor people, there is no privilege. I don't care what color you are. You don't have it. It's It's basically, you're pretty much set up unless you can claw your way out, you got no privilege.
Yeah.
And that was probably created by old white guys. And I cannot think of one nation, one group of people uh, of, of that are black skinned that have ever created a society of wealthy group of wealthy people that dominated everybody else into different classes. It's only been done by the white, the Chinese, the Japanese. They've all tried it. Maybe it's your turn. You know, maybe it is.
I do. I mean,
But
I
it's never in the history of mankind. Do I know anything? Have I seen anything like that? Other than there's history that we don't know about, which it's very speculated that humanity itself basically came out of the Ethiopian area.
Mhm.
So there's probably things that we just don't know.
Yes, and see, I'm gonna go. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm gonna go on the subject, and people might think I'm completely out of my mind on this one. But when you talk about that, the mankind coming out of that particular race, the Ethiopian race, and I've had this conversation to kind of I use this as to enlighten people a little bit about humans themselves and pigmentation, and I'm like, okay, if you think about it, when you get closer to the equator, that means you're exposed to more sunlight. You get further away from the equator, you get closer to the poles, you're exposed to less sunlight and more colder temperatures, right? So, any people, no matter where you're from, anybody who was around the equator, you're going to be exposed to more sun. More likely, when you're exposed to more sun, you're going to have darker skin. As you work your way closer up, close to the poles, your skin's gonna lighten up because you're gonna be less sun exposure. You have lighter skin, and your skin's gonna be a little bit tougher because you're in colder climates, right? So pigmentate. I talked this about people. So when people talking about the originals and when they paint the picture of the pharaohs being white and from Egypt and this and that, I'm like, wait a minute. When you're talking about these areas on the equator, I mean, on geographically, they're closer to the equator, so there's going to be more sun, more heat. Most likely, if you just really think about it in general terms, those people want to probably have darker skin. So as you travel further up to the north, the south, the people up there are going to be having lighter skin because there's less sun that's going to be exposed. Okay, and their skin's going to be tougher because the elements are going to be different. People with darker skin, the elements will be different because they're going to be used to the heat. They're going to use the heat as absorb themselves in. People don't understand with people with pigmentation. I try to tell this with people. Yes, there are black people who burn when they suntan. Some people don't. I never have. I don't know what it is. I've been out in the sun many times. But I do understand what I do understand about pigmentation is that it absorbs the sun. I know for my body physically, because of my skin, when I get out in the heat, it warms my body up. When I get out in the cold, it doesn't work as well. Okay. I kind of broke that down to physical. My ancestors come from a place where it's closer to the equator. So my body works that way. I have friends who look like Trevor who probably feel a lot better, who feel a lot better in the cold because their ancestors came from there. So their skin adapted to it. We are humans. So this is where I'll talk about, I thought about this whole thing about species. Okay. Bird species. You have an ostrich and a parakeet. They're still birds. One flies, one could probably talk. But we don't force the ostrich to be a parrot and a parrot to be an ostrich. We still
Exactly.
the species. So there's a reason why my skin is this color, and there's a reason why Trevor's skin is his color. so that you and I can have these dialogues. Yes, we are about the human species, but there's a difference between us. But those differences doesn't make me a better man or a lesser man than him, and vice versa. I think what
Exactly.
people are missing is just because my skin is dark doesn't mean I'm a less than him, that he can't learn from me, and vice versa, because his skin is lighter than mine, that I can't learn from him. Because in the time that Trevor and I've known each other, we've probably learned a lot from each other, vice versa. And it has nothing to do with the color of our skin. And this is why I'm doing this video, to say he honors me as the man that I am, and I honor him as the man that I am. And he honors the fact that I am a black man in the hip hop culture, and he still loves me for that. And this is why I'm doing these type of things, to show people you got to look past some stuff. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. It was just a little tired. I had to go on.
No, I understand it because I watch some of your stuff and it really hits my heart. You know, it's so good, and you're extremely talented, and you're definitely have courage to be taken on just something like what we're doing right now. Uh, it's going to be viewed by a lot of people. It may be a lot more people than what you think, but as a man, I respect you, and I understand some of the struggle. And hopefully, you know, in between the two of us and what we're going to be discussing over the next few months, we'll be able to maybe take down some of the walls that people have. And maybe people are looking at maybe understanding and enjoying some things that's maybe new to them. Go to a hip hop, go listen to some metal,
Mhm.
get to know the people a little bit. We all need to do that. It's a human thing. You know, you can take Christian atheists if you want to use that for example. You know, the Christians, so many of them say, well, you can't associate with people that aren't a child of God. And so they cut themselves off from a group of people that maybe they can learn something from. And then the atheists decide, you know, they despise the Christians because the Christians try to make them believe something that they don't believe in. Discover a little bit of everybody. I've always thought that maybe the real truth is when we all can get together and lay everything out on the table and put that jigsaw puzzle together. There's no one group of people that can do that by themselves.
Well, I think this step right here, where you and I are taking, is like the first piece to the puzzle. You know, and that jigsaw puzzle is large, as we know. You know, larger than we can um, probably comprehend. But I think this is, you know, our way of putting the pieces to the puzzle together. You know, if it doesn't, like you said, if people don't see it, then if you don't lead by example, it's not going to work. You know, and that's probably, it's one of my philosophies. Actions speak louder than words, and I think that goes back to a lot of times just feeling like the words I say, people don't want to hear it. So I'm like, all right, cool. I just got to do it. And once I do it, then I've learned to, okay, it's done. Then let people have their whatever they want to feel about it afterwards. But in my soul, I know I did it. I did my part. You know, I don't know, man. I wouldn't feel right at this moment in time if I didn't step up and say something. I couldn't sleep right. You know, and with all the madness that's going on in the world, and even madness I've had to deal with, somehow, some way, every night I can lay my head to sleep and I've been sleeping peacefully. So something's telling me I'm doing something right. You know, I'm not tossing and turning. You know, when I sleep, I'm sleeping peacefully. I'm waking up and I'm, I'm gratitude. You know, that I've been able to work with kids again and, you know, teach the culture. And have these interactions with you and stuff like that. And so again, another one of my confirmation of my purpose that I have to do. And if I didn't do it, I think I wouldn't be sleeping. But
Yeah, I'm really happy about this. It's. I really believe that the common white skinned people, they really don't understand. And they never really get a chance to talk to a black skinned person about the issues and the things that they dealt with growing up, and the way they're momentarily treated. But like you said, how wonderful it feels to be within a group of people that appreciate you. And that's a key word, being appreciated. The average white skinned person probably doesn't understand what it's like to not be appreciated for their color and what it feels like to be appreciated for your color. I don't know if that makes any sense. The key word is appreciation.
mm-hmm.
We all want to be appreciated. If I was to walk into on a stage in front of a crowd of people with black skin and they appreciate what I had to offer, I would love them and appreciate them back. And maybe that's really what we need to do is start appreciating people for who they are
Mm-hmm.
and the things they have to offer. And everybody has something to offer. Everyone. That 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 white guy at that car lot that's trying to slam you into that automobile. And a lot of times you go, wow, that was a good one. Well, that was good too, but
Yeah.
nice try. But the guy has talent. If the talent was put to good use, he could do a lot. We all have something.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen with this as we go forward. I think this is what we're offering. And, for people who are watching this now or when they do watch it later, I hope this inspires you guys to go have a conversation with somebody. Because, this past week, I challenged my kids, the kids that I taught, at the studio. I challenged them. I expressed to them, once I taught them that hip hop was an acronym of higher inner peace, helping other people. I gave them 1 week to go teach that to somebody else who didn't know that, a family,
Good
a
job.
friend, a stranger. I said the only way our culture stays alive is it's called each one teach one. You pass the knowledge on. I'm passing this knowledge to you. Now the only way it stays alive, it's your guys' responsibility to do it. So I want to keep that motivation going. And for people who decided to view this, and I'm a true believer, the ones who are meant to watch it will see it. Take a step. You don't have to do what Trevor and I are doing or are going to continue to do, but have a dialogue with somebody who's not like you. It doesn't have to be a black and white thing. It can be, something you never like. Maybe there's somebody else from another culture you've always want to learn about. Have a dialogue. Put the wall down. Ask a question. I guarantee that person will be probably a lot more happy that you asked the question and be willing to respond back to it than think it'd be
Exactly. Exactly.
because they're like, oh wow, you're actually taking interest into who I am. And you're right. I think that's the perception because people think that you're gonna be like, oh, get away from me. It's like, oh, okay. You want to learn? You want to know the truth? You're coming to the source. Let me tell you.
That is so important. I've got right behind me here 2 books right here about the Japanese culture. That was These books were handed to me. They're very important books for the person that gave them to me to be able to read to understand her culture. it was important enough to her to let me use books that are invaluable to her about her culture so that I could understand her culture more. And I respect these books tremendously. Obviously, nothing will happen to them, and I will read them. If if everybody shared their culture that way, and then we received it and tried to understand the culture, um, what a different world it would be. And we could take the best parts of all cultures and put them together.
Yeah, it's and that's a perfect example. That's deep rooted culture that's been passed on and passed on and passed on. Right now, you and I, Trevor, we're doing the exact same thing. Like making this video, as you know, these are archives. These are archives that generations long after we're gone are gonna watch. Passing down the culture of breaking the barriers. So it starts with us. So whoever's watching, guys, like you said, if it's learning about another culture, as Trevor is taking in right now, or my series of stepping up and talking with people about racial interaction, even if it's positive or negative. I didn't want to put a negative, just whole negative twist on this thing. It's just talking about racial interaction, and it grows to racial interaction is people interaction, human interaction. That's what it's about. And everybody's gonna have the positive and negative twist on it, but this is a start. And I don't know, man. I just feel a lot more is going to come from this because I feel like this is the path, and this is the way we begin. And um, we have, both Trevor and I have a lot of very common friends who are doing a lot of amazing things in people's lives and changing people's lives. Um, Trevor, I would like to challenge some of our really close friends, and we know who those people are, to step out the box and reach out to someone else. Step out, break the norm of what we're already putting out. Break the norm because we already have people who follow us and watch us. Do something that's not comfortable and show society. Break the norm. Don't just say it. Post it. Put a video out. I'm challenging our friends, and those friends know who you guys are when you're watching. Please. I mean, if we're solely connected, and we're really supposed to be doing this mission. This is my cry for help to ask you guys as family, step out your box, reach out to somebody else that you would normally reach out to, that you're not comfortable with. I don't care if you've got hundreds of thousands of people that are following you. I don't care. Find someone that you don't know and learn from them. That could be a stranger on your block. That could be researching somebody you don't know about.
Those are some of the best experiences. Absolutely the best. It renews your faith in humanity to walk up to somebody that you don't know, start talking to them, get to know them a little bit. Somebody that's different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tremendous. Yeah, I'll try to do more of that this week.
Cool. Well, brother Trevor, I'm my soul feels really good right now. I'm glad we did this. Um, but this is just the beginning. I want to send out some other invites to some other people. Um, get this. I'd like to do this again and maybe have 2, 3 other people that we can conversate with.
That would be great. Maybe take on some questions that people send in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe we. What I'll do is after I post this up, maybe I'll put out some questions if people want to ask some questions um, that that enjoyed this video. You know what I'm saying? If something sparked within you, within your soul, you want to ask some questions, cool. And here's the thing, I'm open. Where I'm at, I'm open
I'm
about
open
talking
here
about
too.
You know, Trevor and I are both open to talk about our experiences, you know, from life, you know, males or, you know, being artists, being a black male, you know, all those things, me living in hip hop, all those things. Because I'm at a place where I'm ready to teach not only hip hop, but just life, man. Because if we don't teach each other, who's gonna teach? Because obviously this, you know, what's happening around us is not doing it. So if we don't do it, who's gonna do it?
Exactly. I'm for that.
Cool. All right. So Trevor and I, we're gonna continue talking. We're gonna set up another time. I'm gonna get some questions and answers going. I'm gonna put out some invite to some people if they would like to join us on this discussion, and hopefully we'll have at least one more person in the next time we get this going. How about this?
Perfect.
Would like to do it? Try it again next month.
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, that sounds good. Well, again, thank you guys for watching and people who watch. As always, my brother, send my love to Eileen. Let's keep in touch. And this is just our first step.
We love you.
Thank you, brother. Love you too. Signing off.
Have a great week.
All right, see you later. Bye, guys.
Later.
Peace.
Bye.